Right. What's happening, Ryan? How are you?
Good, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Right. Well, we're gonna honor those who are on time. We're starting at 10, and so we want to
Yeah.
be mindful of everybody's time. And we're excited to kind of kick this off. I'm excited to host this with you today, Ryan. As I was thinking about prepping this, I remember our cab ride. It was like at a Dunkin' event that we were at, and we were
Yeah.
talking about an experience I had with a client. We were changing this generational wealth for this family, and you're like, hey man, that's exactly what I do. This is what we're all about. And here we are years later at Neo, kind of with the same mission, same goals to kind of get to that place and serve our clients at a really high level. And it leads us to this place in time where we have these buyers and sellers, for that matter, who are just on the fence. They're super confused about the market. They don't know what to do. And to be honest with you, if I wasn't in this business, I wouldn't know what to do. I would tap out like, hey, rates are too high. The housing market's too expensive. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So we have a ton of data behind the scene that we're able to access and thinking things through. If we go all the way back, like, 20 years ago, we didn't have that. We asked our mom and dad, we asked our aunt and uncle, hey, is it a good time to buy a house? Yes or no? Right. And then they would have all the answers, apparently. And so now we have the media telling us whatever they want to tell us. We have data points, and depending on what you key into Google, you're going to get different results. The housing market's crashing or it's booming. And so we want to try to, set the tone, give you guys a little bit of feedback as to, you know, what you should be telling your clients. And is the information that we have in front of us, is it going to err them on the side of, hey, they should probably wait? Or is this a family that maybe should take action and they think they should wait? So really excited to dive into this with you, Ryan. This will be super fun.
Yeah. I think, one of the things that I've always been really, proud of that we do is we put the client in the seat of the hero. Right. So you talk about the hero's journey. You have the hero, you have the guide, you have the villain. In this case, I would think that you know, the villain would probably be the media, right? Because they flat out know that they are not delivering appropriate information, but they're delivering information that creates clicks, right? It's fear, it's uncertainty. Um, we need to be the guide, and then our clients ultimately get to be the hero, right? And you've done that so well your whole career, right? You were doing that before I even thought about it. I was just doing loans, and now as real estate agents and as mortgage lenders, our whole job has changed, right? Like we cannot we can no longer afford to sit back and let our clients decide when they should buy, sell, or finance homes because they're not going to have the information, they're not going to have the education, they're going to be paralyzed with uncertainty and fear. And right now, they're not looking to us, right? They're not looking to the real estate community and the mortgage community to say, what should we do? Right? Because they don't see us as advisors or consultants. They see us as people who help get transactions done. Right. But they think they need to come up with the information first. And so I'm excited to walk through this with everybody today to show people what I believe the real estate or mortgage professional needs to become in order to serve families the right way. Because look, every time I speak, I always ask, like, raise your hand if you like helping people. Every hand goes up. It's like, well, what would you say if I told you weren't actually doing that? And then you see a lot of long faces. So this is an opportunity for, if you're a real estate professional watching this, or if you're a mortgage professional watching this is an opportunity for you to rethink your role in the lives of your clients and in the community. And you know, Ryan, in advance, I want to say thank you for being such a great partner in this effort to redefine this industry. So for all of you here that work with Ryan as real estate professionals, you're lucky to be able to partner with him because he's going to help you change this industry just as much, if not more, than anybody I could possibly imagine.
I appreciate that, Ryan. Super fun to champion that with you.
All right. Well, are you ready to dive into it?
Let's do it.
All right. Let me share my screen here. And we'll get going. Let me just see if I can share the window. Here we go. Right, can you tell me if you can see this?
I got it now. We're all good.
Awesome. Cool. So the purpose of today's, meeting or webinar is to help you as real estate professionals remove fear, uncertainty, and anxiety from your clients' lives. Um, and it's not to tell them why they should buy a home, right? It's not to convince them that they should sell their home. It's really to when we say get people off the fence, we're okay if they fall on the side of buying or selling a home. We're also okay if they fall on the side of not buying or selling a home. The problem with being on the fence is it literally means you're uncertain, you're unaware, you're not sure. And our job as real estate mortgage professionals should be to provide that clarity and that certainty. And I'll show you how that works as we kind of walk through this here. So, first thing you want to ask yourself is, what do your clients actually know about real estate? Like, what do you expect them to know? And I'm actually speaking at an event later today that I was prepping for, and I realized that for most of my career and for most real estate agents' careers, we've just waited for the consumer to figure out, okay, I'm going to buy a home, I'm going to sell a home, I'm going to need to finance my home, and then we've just wanted to be around and hopefully they chose us. That's not going to work anymore, right? And here's a couple of reasons why. One is that currently we're selling products that people don't want. Right? There's a article that came out that says 16% of consumers said now is a good time to buy a home. Right? That means 1 out of every 10 people roughly that you talk to is not going to want the product that you're selling. And of the people that do, that 10% or the 1 out of 10, most of them don't understand it. Right? 28 million Americans plan to purchase a home in 2023. On average, they hope to spend 269,000. Right? This is $100,000 short of the median home price, which is $388,000 at the end of 2022. And the reason why is because, well, rates are higher. I must be able to get good deals because there's not a lot of deals happening because they see real estate crash, home sales down. They get the wrong information. 61% of Americans think mortgage rates have never been this high, which is laughable, but it's also sad because 30-year rates have averaged 7.75% over the last 50 years. And we're definitely under that. And lastly, of all the people that actually plan to buy a home, very few people will get to. So we're going to talk about how to solve that problem as well. So now you got to think there's two types of clients, right? But they have very different approaches. The most common client you're probably talking to today is the client that says, I kind of want to buy a home, or I might want to sell my home. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if it's a good time. Right? My assumption is that if you're a real estate professional, 9 times out of 10, if not more, you're having this conversation. And then every now and then you find a ready or willing seller or buyer, and they're even gone so far as to get pre-approved, right? To get to the point where they could actually do that, right? If they really wanted to. We're going to talk about both of these types of clients because, again, I think the term getting people off the fence is probably not a great saying, because in sales, it's like, get your clients off the fence. That means get them to buy or get them to do a transaction. I really want to make certain that's not what we're trying to tell people here. So this is what happens. And if this were a live event, I would call on somebody here. But Ryan, maybe you can role play this with me if you're okay. You be the client, I'll be the real estate agent. You good with that?
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So, hey Ryan, just wanted to connect. I know it's been a while. Just touching base. Are you thinking of buying or selling a home anytime soon?
Honestly, I was thinking about it, but I heard the interest rates are super, super high right now. So, I'm probably just going to kind of wait it out and wait till the market kind of crashes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that with me. Ryan, I think it's important that you understand, and I apologize if I haven't done a great job with this, up to this point, but my job is not to help you or convince you to buy or sell a home. Actually, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but I don't actually care if you do or not. What I care about is that you have all the right information and education to make a really confident, informed decision, right? And whether it means that you're going to sell your home and buy another one, whether you're going to buy an investment property, or whether you do nothing, you should either confidently do that or confidently not do it with a plan and a strategy and a timeline. So the fact that you said you thought about it or you might want to do it, but you're uncertain because of interest rates or other variables, means that I haven't really done my job well, and I apologize for that. What I recommend, Ryan, is that I, I think you should just, if you're open to it, meet with our financing team for a short, brief period of time. Tell them what your goals are. Like, assume you could just accomplish your goal if you snap your fingers. And what they'll do is they'll give you all the advice and guidance information necessary. They'll understand what you're trying to accomplish. And one of the things that are going to happen, you're either going to confidently realize that you can and should, and then we can help you go down that path, or you'll realize not the right time, doesn't make sense, but we'll have a plan and a strategy and a timeline to get you to that goal at some point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. I would love that.
So look, and I'll set that up, but I can't stress enough. I've gone through this process. I do it every year with our financing team because I want them to help me kind of proactively, work me towards my goals. All of my clients go through it, and I'm pretty sure you'll thank me for it, because we're not selling anything, right? Like, no one's going to try and run your credit. No one's going to try and get you approved or try and go show you homes. We're literally just going to understand where you're at today, where you want to go. So I'll set that time up. When's a good day, time, and phone number for the team to reach out?
Let's try, like, can you guys do Friday, like 4 o'clock maybe?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect.
All right, so we'll end that role play. Thanks for doing that with me.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
for anyone watching, I think that the key there is you have to understand how we're perceived. And it took me a really long time to kind of bury my ego and pride, because I thought, well, I'm a mortgage professional, right? I'm a finance professional, and a lot of partners I work with are real estate professionals, right? They're not just commodities. But it's one thing for us to see ourselves that way, but it's quite another to realize how the rest of the world sees us. They see us as people who, when they need us, they will call, right? When they decide to buy, sell, or finance home, they'll call us. No one expects us to do what I just told for Ryan, right? Because honestly, think about it. When's the last time somebody called you and said, "Hey, I just want to give you advice and guidance and help and planning, and I'm not going to sell you anything"? Just doesn't happen. So that's how you get people to engage. One, you have to really believe it, right? So for any of you who've not gone through this, I genuinely recommend spend time with Ryan and his team and just go through this process. I don't care if you don't want to buy a home, if you don't want to sell a home, if you don't want to finance your home. Just allow Ryan to ask questions, ask you about your goals, and then present to you a plan. And you'll see how powerful it can be and how much of a better feeling you'll be in. And, look, maybe 8 out of 10 people won't need to do anything. They're in a good spot. But 2 or 3 will likely need to buy, sell, finance, do something, right? But it's up to us to go in and make that happen, right? So you genuinely need to believe it. And in my experience, the only way to really believe something or know it to be true is to experience it firsthand. Second is the scripting, right? So you can believe it, but if you can't articulate it, right, and then clients are going to feel like, well, I don't know what they're talking about, but this is a real estate agent, right? They get paid to convince people to buy and sell homes. I don't want to do that. I'm not ready to do that. So I'm going to push back on really anything they're saying. Same thing in the mortgage space, right? They sell mortgages. If I don't want a mortgage or don't need one, then I'm going to push back because I'm not familiar with what they're trying to do here. We have to work really hard to change the perception of our value offering to the consumer moving forward. And part of that is just being really good with the scripting, right? So A, you just have to believe in it, and B, you have to know how to articulate it to a point where, like I did with Ryan, obviously he played nice, but where they just say, okay, yeah, like, what's the harm in that? Right? They told me they're not going to sell them anything. They told me there's no cost to this. Like, it's just genuinely someone who's wanting to help. Now, it doesn't mean everyone's going to say yes, because again, people aren't expecting value with no strings attached. So we have to work pretty hard. And this is where how you say this becomes really important. You could believe it and you could script it, but if you like, people don't buy what you're telling them, they buy the passion upon which those words are writing on. So you really need to convince them, like, hey, I look, if Ryan would have just shut me down and said, no, I'm not planning on buying or selling at all, like, we're totally good in a good place, right? I still would have asked him if he wanted to go through it, But if he would have said no, I would have understood. Not a big deal. The difference is he opened the door a little bit, right? He said, "Well, I kind of want to buy a house, or I've been thinking about selling a house, but I don't think so. I'm probably going to wait." You need to go in hard right there, right? Not because you want to get a sale, but because you genuinely know you can help him and he's not expecting that, right? So how you say something, the passion and the belief and the genuine care and concern to help that consumer is going to help them get off the fence, right? And then from there, you just literally set them up with Ryan or any financing team for that matter, as long as they understand how to do this process. And the client is going to get a good amount of attention and intentionality behind what we're trying to do for them there. Right? Would you add anything to this?
Yeah, I thought it would be good to kind of give a frame of reference. For a lot of our clients, especially a first-time buyer, they've never been through this. Their only frame of reference as it relates to financing is a car. And so when you go to look at a car, what do? They move you in. Let me introduce you to my sales manager. Let me talk to the finance guy. And they bring out the sheet of paper and they write like 500 things on it to try to get to your monthly payment. That's what they're expecting. And so to have a completely different approach to it, to where you're going, it doesn't matter if you buy today. I just want you to understand, because this is really, really confusing. And I happen to be really good at it. It's what I do all day. And if I were in your shoes, I would want more context around what the market actually is and how it applies to me in my life. Right. So if I have a goal of owning a home and I'm pausing because of a perceived event that I think is going to happen, which is a housing crash or interest rates getting reduced in half, then I need to know, is that true or not? I don't have a frame of reference behind it. So we have to be empathetic in the way that we approach that, because the consumer just doesn't know, right? They're trained and conditioned to say, yes, I'm ready to go based on a perceived payment or view of the market, or no, I'm not, because my coworker told me that they got 2.99 on their mortgage, and I heard that mortgage rates are in the sixes. So they just hit
Yeah.
timeout and they're gone, right? But they don't have any kind of other data to make that assumption or that determination that it's the right time or the wrong time for them. So um, be gentle with it, and again, in the way that you frame it up, no matter what they say, I think everybody has a goal at some point to own their own home. And so it may not be tomorrow, it may not be in a month, it may not be in a year, it could be 5 years down the road. And that initial conversation, that seed that we plant when we first talk to them, finally sprouts. It's finally the right time for them, but they need to know when to identify that. We need to teach them what to look for in their own life that tells them they're ready.
Yeah. Super well said, man. This is the new reality of our industry. Um, for two reasons. One is that as professionals, to run a good business, right, and to run a business we're proud of and a profitable business, no questions about it, right? We need transactions to help with that, and we cannot sit back and wait for everyone to come up with their own plan and strategy. And more often than not, we're going to be able to show them what to do, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. But uh, in reality, we owe it to them, right? If especially if we've known them or they're a past client of ours, like we should commit to more. And ultimately, this is why people will make the step to do something moving forward. So, this is how you would engage with someone who says not ready. So, what I would love everyone to do is change your trigger mechanism, because look, for the past 100 years in the real estate business, if a client says, "Oh, I'm not ready, not yet, I'm not sure," most agents would never think, "Let's get them in front of our lending team or our finance team," right? Because they're not ready, right? The real trigger, unfortunately, is yes, I want to buy, or yes, I want to sell, yes, I need to finance, and do you know a good lender? Then you make that referral. This means that 9 out of 10 people that you talk to, and assuming they all say, "I'm not sure, I'm not aware," which most people will, your goal should not be to convince them, right, or overcome an objection, which unfortunately is bad coaching. Your goal should be to get them to a team, because everyone would buy a home or sell and buy a new home if it was just about the want or the desire, right? The reason people aren't is because they're concerned about the financial implication and impact it'll have, right? So let us help with that. And you'll be blown away with the conversion you'll see, right? Because you'll be doing a great thing for your business, but most importantly, you'll be doing a really great thing for that client's life. So let's get into the second type of client here, right? This is a client who's ready, pre-approved, good to go. Um, Again, if we were in a live setting, I would ask what's wrong with this type of client, and the feedback I would get would be, well, they have bad expectations, or they are too picky or choosy, or they can't find anything, or there's no inventory. Right? We get all those things. Challenge is what's really wrong with the client is that there is a massive difference between being able to buy a home, right, and knowing that you actually must buy a home. So I can go online right now, and in 8 minutes or less, I can get pre-approved for a mortgage. Right? Put in my information, hit click, I'd get a pre-approval letter. I can print it out, and I could go shop for homes. Now, the problem is, all I have is a piece of paper that says you can do this. But there's a lot of things in life you can do that you should not actually do. And that's the issue with people being pre-approved in the manner in which we've always done this, is that just because they can doesn't mean they will. Like, think about it. How many pre-approved clients have you worked with over the past 18 months who did not end up buying a home? Right? The number is probably pretty high. And the absolute reason is because nobody's told them that they actually should. And the really most important reason is nobody sat down with them with intentionality and says, look, Mr. Smith, I don't want to overstep, but here's why I believe you actually must buy a home. With that level of courageous advice and guidance. So there's the necessary steps you need to go through to take someone from I can to I must. And again, this is assuming that they are already, wanting to buy a home, right? You can go back a step farther from I'm not sure, right? Or I don't know to, oh, I can, I should, I must. Right? But we're just focusing on the people who are already approved or already ready and willing. If you want them to understand why they must buy a home, they have to have a deep understanding of the housing market. Data, facts, all information that they're not getting today. Right? All they're getting is confusing headlines. Second is the personal economy versus national economy. Right? This is, if you're reading these headlines about recession and uncertainty in the housing market, it paralyzes you, but nobody's taken the time to say, hey, your personal economy is actually really good. You don't need to worry about these fake national headlines. Next is they need to know that they have a competitive advantage, right? So when someone has a leg up on the competition, they tend to want to use it, right? They're more motivated, more confident to go in and actually, swing that sword around because they're bringing a gun to a knife fight, for lack of a better term. And then lastly is they need to know they're not alone for the next 30 years, right? Because this is a big reason. If you look at the majority of activity in the housing market right now, it's first-time home buyers, right? Because there's just not a lot of selling happening, right? The inventory is low. So the people buying homes are people that are entering new household formations, right? They're having families, they're having kids, they're getting married. But that generation, millennials and below, they've historically been averse to long-term commitment. And people don't want a massive debt and a massive asset and liability if they believe that they have to manage that all by themselves, right? So that's why there's a more and more of a renter nation. So let's break these four things down. And Ryan, I'd love to get your take on each of them as we're going through here. One is the deep understanding of the housing market has to, it's intentional. You have to sit down with them. We are visual learners. We're not auditory learners. You could tell them all day long what you think of the housing market, but you're the real estate agent. So they're going to think immediately that your information is biased, right? So we need to go third-party information. And B, all they read is headlines, right? They're not getting this information. And this is not stuff that the news is printing because it's actually positive. Positive doesn't sell. So what I'm showing you here is exactly what we would show your clients, right? And the majority of people are afraid of 2006, 7, 8, 9 happening again, right? They don't want to buy at the top of the market and then, find out that the market's going to crash. I actually personally did that in 06. I know others did as well. So people are really, they have some PTSD around that. Or they've heard that they're, parents got hurt during that time. Here's the difference, right? Is that in 2006, there was a massive drop in household formations. Now, household formations is just a quick overview. I have two kids, two girls, they're 6 and 8. Let's say, and obviously me and my wife, right? So that's one household. Let's say both of my kids, grow up and move out. That's the formation of two new households. Even though, they're not married, they're not having kids, they're moving into new homes. Like they need a place to live, right? So now, as opposed to one household, it's three households. So every year we track household formations. In '06, in '07, and '08, household formations fell off a cliff. And I'll show you why. But at the same time, completions, which is new homes being built, those went through the roof, right? Because home builders were building as fast as they could to keep up with demand. And then they realized, oh no, like housing is not doing well. And then home building stopped. Now, what you'll see here is the alternative. Household formations are going way up. And in 2023, they're supposed to be the highest they've been, in a very, very long time. And as you can see, we have not built even remotely enough homes for, really the past 9 years. So supply and demand is a pretty important part of economic equation. Now, this is why that happened, right? Is that 33 years ago, right? Which would have been from 2006 all the way back to 1973. If you remember what happened there, that's when Roe v. Wade was passed, right? And so abortions became legalized, and we saw a massive drop off in in new births, which meant that household formations are going to drop off, 33 years later. So now here we have, and 33 years old, by the way, is the average first-time home buyer, right? So that's how old the average first-time home buyer is. But now you fast forward and you see, okay, well, this is what's going to happen in 2023, right? This is the largest we've seen since 1973. So we have all these new people being born and just not anywhere near enough homes being built. So we're going to have massive demand for housing and a very short supply. Another thing, or another reason why people think that 2007, 8, 9 might happen again, is because they think, well, the housing market was on fire back then and it had to crash. The difference was that housing market crashed because there was 4 million homes for sale, right? 3.9, 4, 3.8, and still a lot. Now it's the lowest it's been in over 20 years, right? Under a million homes for sale. But keep in mind, all those people, right, they were born 33 years ago, are now entering first-time home buyer years. Keep that in mind with, basically since 1941, the housing market is 73, 7, and 1, right? 73 years positive, 7 years neutral, there are 7 years where there was a loss, and 1 year was neutral, right, which is 1991. And everyone thinks, well, when you see a big run up, that means prices have to crash. That's not true. If you look at 43, 44, 40, all the way through 47, we had a massive run up in housing prices. And I'm sure everyone thought in 1948, home prices have to crash, have to come down, because look how much they've gone up. Not true. They continue to go up. Right? Same thing from 74 to 79. Big increase. Well, they have to crash. Not true. Right? This is the only time this happened. This was just a product of bad mortgage lending, right? Of bad underwriting standards. But everyone's focusing on this, right? Which is why they think housing has to crash, housing has to crash. Housing does not have to crash. The demographics and the number of people that need somewhere to live is important. Now, this is the interesting part, right? Oh, sorry, I'm going to go back here. I don't know if I put that in there. Right? Did I put this slide about the 40% of homes?
No, I didn't see that one in there.
Oh, strange. Maybe it's in there later. But essentially, there was an article, and we can send it out with the recording of this, but the article says that 40% of all single-family homes will be owned by Wall Street or institutional investors by 2030. That's $15 trillion of homes, right? Which would be about, by that time, housing will probably be about 50 trillion. well, actually it'd be about 20 trillion, right? So it's a massive number, but this is the must part of the equation. If we allow our clients to think, well, maybe I'll buy a home next year, maybe next year, maybe next year, or maybe when it suits me, I'll buy a home. We cannot let them think that because it's not up to them, right? They're not competing against their neighbors anymore. They're not competing against their community anymore. They're competing against companies that are putting billions of dollars into buying single family homes because they know that a renter nation is about to be here. There's way too many people, not enough homes. Everyone who owns them is going to, be very wealthy, and everyone who doesn't is just going to be, renters for their life. And people might think, well, I'll wait a few years. If you wait a few years, it's going to get worse, not better, which means that at some point, not only would you not be able to buy, but you couldn't even be able to afford to rent where you live. But people don't realize that, right? That's not the headline that's being told, right? The headline being told is housing market crash. And I don't know, what's creating that or what will bring that to play. Right, before we go into personal economy versus national economy, anything you would add to the understanding of the housing market?
Yeah, I don't know if can you pull those slides up real quick one more time?
Oh, yeah. Go back into share here.
Sorry, jumped out of it real quick.
No worries.
Basically, what I was going to say is, if you kind of take a look at the amount of inventory, right? So the homes that are being built, the demand that's there, we know that people are putting off big expensive purchases, like a house a little bit longer. They're kind of staying at home a little longer. They're pushing everything a little bit further because it's more expensive today. I mean, it's not cheap to live, right? It's got a lot more expensive. But they're pushing all of that out. And on top of that, we have the bottom of the market's not being serviced. So we don't have these really affordable entry level homes because it's frankly too expensive to build those. You have labor costs, you have material costs that are really high. And so builders just, even at scale, they cannot make a big enough profit to replace the homes at 300, 350, 400. They got to go to 5, 6, 7 to make any kind of a spread. So if that's where the homes are being built and the bottom isn't being replaced, well, then why would it adjust? Why would it crash? There's no reason for it to crash. Somebody needs to buy that. The other problem that we have, and a lot of you guys know this, I just want to reiterate it so that it's top of mind when you're talking to your clients. We have a massive problem with the lock-in effect. We call it the golden handcuffs. We've got somebody who's got a 2.75 rate or a 3% rate, and they're looking at it, they're like, hey, when I go to work and I'm at the water cooler, I know I got the best rate. And I want to be that guy. I don't want to change my rate. So they've got this rate and they stick in their house way longer than they probably should. And that home never hits the market. And so what happens is our inventory levels stay incredibly low. It's not being replaced by new construction. The only new construction at scale to be affordable is owned by institutional investors. And so these first-time buyers, they've got nothing to buy. So they have to have some kind of an education around where do I need to be at to get ready to go? Like, how much money do I need to close? We had somebody the other day that was saving for 20% down. They were close. They were like 17%. They're like, oh, I'm still saving. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at everything else you got going on. On top of that, they had 17% for their first purchase. They could go right now. They just didn't know it. They had like 60 grand in credit card debt. I'm like, hold on a minute. So you're floating credit card debt at a high interest rate so that you can avoid PMI, I'm assuming. And they're like, yeah, I'm avoiding PMI because I heard PMI is bad. I'm like, okay, time out. This is why we're talking. Let's go over all this. Let's knock out that debt. Let's take all of the monthly that's going out to kind of kill off that debt. Let's leverage the mortgage and let's compare. And we compared both scenarios for them. They were far better off just owning a home with one payment than having a 20% down payment, one loan, plus their credit card debt. And then eventually, once they own the home, then they're going to start to chip away at the credit cards. That's not going to happen. And so I think taking an overall picture of the whole thing, that's what we're talking about, like having a meeting with somebody. Sometimes we're telling them, this is your plan. You're on step 1. We need 5 steps to be accomplished before you can buy. That means you're not a buyer for another year. And that's okay, as long as they know and as long as they have a plan. But we run into some people that think they have 5 steps and they're already on step 5. We're like, you could do it right now. And did you know it's actually better for you to do it right now than it is to wait another year? So, having data like this is super important. I'm a data geek. I love seeing this stuff. If I were a buyer in the market and I was presented with that, it helps me make a decision. If I were a buyer in the market and I saw nothing, I'm literally just gonna Google it and find out. Nope, it's I'm gonna hit timeout. I'm gonna pause. I'll wait next year. I'll wait 3 months for the market to crash, right? Because it crashes in 3 months. It crashes literally like 30% off in 3 months. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that's super well said. And look, I mean, what you're doing there is you're taking someone who would not have made the decision to buy a home because they wanted to wait to put more money down to avoid PMI. And you showed them not only how it's a better financial outcome current state, but how it will help them long term as well. And that is 1,000% what we have to be doing as real estate and mortgage professionals right now, right? Because there's way more people who are unsure or making bad decisions than there are people who are making certain good decisions. In large part, again, because have to look at they're looking at all the national economy stuff. They're reading headlines. They're hearing someone at work talk about PMI or talk about interest rates, and nobody has sat down to say, hey, let's just look at your personal economy because that's what's really most important. A recession is not going to hurt a lot of people. It will hurt other people, but are you one of them or are you not? Like, let's find out. So this is just a good example of what we're sharing with clients that we would recommend that everybody does is showing them what happens if you buy now, even at a higher rate, right, versus waiting for a lower rate to show up with homes appreciating at 5%, right, versus buying now and then refinancing later, right? So this is better than this, and this is better than both, right? And obviously, there's no way we can guarantee that somebody's going to be able to refi later, but being able to get into a home and having a long-term benefit, right? Having a $3,700 payment versus a $3,900 or $4,000 payment if they waited, right? They're saving $250 a month, and it ends up that they save 40 was that $27,000, right, in just 5 years by making the decision to do something now versus later. But this takes intentionality, right? It takes time. This is where we do what's called a pre-purchase consultation. We really analyze this, which is exactly what Ryan just talked about. Right? Like if that person would have just listened to the voice in his head that said, don't pay PMI, he would have made a really bad decision, right? And he would have still had, a bunch of other financial challenges he would have dealt with. So this is the second thing that we have to contend with, right? Third is the competitive advantage, right? Which is if someone believes that, look, we would just inherently, if we see a home listed for $400,000 and we think, one of us says, hey, you have to write an offer on 420 for this thing. Like in every ounce of our cells and our DNA, we are against that, right? It's like going to a clothing store and you see a shirt for $20. And then you get to the cash register and say, oh, if you want that shirt, you have to bid 30. It's like, no, it says 20. Right. So it's just not normal for us to have to compete, right? To have to, offer more. It's a very challenging feeling. But if someone looks like cash and can perform like cash, well, we can tell them that a higher likelihood of getting their offer accepted, and they don't have to be the highest price. They're much more likely to actually do that, right? 36% of homes sold nationally were cash, right? And there's a reason why offers that are being accepted have no loan contingencies, have 15-day closing time frames. They're waiving inspection. They're waiving all these things just because that's their only shot of getting that offer accepted, right? So this is what we help our clients with. If you're just writing offers, they're 30-day closings. I've actually just had a meeting prior to this with one of our teammates, and she had a client who was, approved with Chase Bank, and he was approved for 2 months, and he kept writing offers. They kept getting denied, and so he was referred to Pinky out here in New Jersey, and within a week and a half, he's under contract, right? Because we underwrote his file. He submitted it with no loan contingency, 15-day closing time frame. She sent a video to the listing agent explaining why his offer should stand out, why it should be number one. He got his offer accepted. There was multiple offers, and he didn't have to be the highest price, and it was the first offer with our group. So understanding how your client feels going into an offer is important, right? And then giving that competitive advantage so they're more confident in kind of attacking the market in the way it's necessary, really important, right? Because again, you can have a pre-approval letter and you can write offers on 20 homes, but it doesn't do any good unless you go under contract on one of them. Anything you'd add to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing that again. There was a period of time where you could write a 30-day escrow and you could have all the contingencies just totally normal, and you could write under the bid price. That was kind of as we were falling off the peaks of 2021. We were seeing that for a little while, and then the tides shifted. And the real estate agents, you guys out here watching this, you got really smart and you said, okay, we can't go on market 30 grand over the appraised value. Let's go 30K under the appraised value. The consumer sees the lower price and they go, oh, it's time to buy. Market's down. I'm ready to go. And so not only did one person do it, 10, 15, 20 people did it. And so we see all these offers come in, and then guess what? It pushes that price right back up to market and where it should have sold in the first place. So if you want to stand out, you have to have a competitive advantage. Each market's a little bit different. We just had a closing in San Jose, $1.6 million purchase. It was on the market at 1.4. They had to go to 1.6 to get it. That's really hard to do. 200K. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
And on top of that, they had a they didn't remove all contingencies. The EMD was like 40K, but they did remove the loan contingency because we had them fully pre-approved. They kept the appraisal contingency in there, but guess what? It was super short. So that means we had to go like right away, right? As soon as we get the contract, we're ordering the appraisal, we're going to get it done. And they got all of it done. We closed, on time. Everything worked out perfect. They got their offer accepted. Prior to that, they were writing offers with a lot of contingencies built in, and they were getting outbid, and they were just going with other people, including cash. There's still in that marketplace, there were cash offers, coming in at 1.5, 1.550 on a house that's listed at 1.4. Blows my mind because at the same time we were helping another person in Alabama who was writing an offer 10K under, and they got their offer accepted. Right? It's just two different markets. So having a good understanding of the market, if you're a realtor, express that to your client. Hey, I know this market. I know exactly where we need to be at to make your offer work. And even though you may want to write low, it's not going to happen in this market. Or on the other hand, if you know that you can get it in there a little bit low, that's why they want to work with you, because you're going to actually save them money by identifying an opportunity in the marketplace.
Yeah. I mean, knowledge is power, right? And if you can transfer that knowledge confidently and in a trustful way, it's a really powerful thing to do. So well said, man. All right. And then, oh, sorry, let me go back here. So competitive advantage. And then, this is something that we talked to a lot of our partners about is, the ability to be, sorry, let's go back here. The ability to be engaged with your clients' lives moving forward, right? And this is why, again, most people aren't deciding to buy or finance a home or sell a home because they don't know what to do next. Right now, unfortunately, mortgage and real estate has moved to every 7 to 10 years. Right? This is the amount of transaction between or time between transactions because rates are higher and home prices are higher. How do we add value to our clients? How do we stay close to our clients? How do we stay connected and really proactively move their life forward when they're only engaging with us every 7 to 10 years, right? We need to get here in the habit zone, right? Where they're using us daily, weekly, monthly. And so this again is the reason why people aren't buying homes, because they don't want to do it. They don't want to have this burden, right? They don't want to carry the weight of this thing forever. So what we've developed here, and all of our partners have the opportunity to, to be able to utilize it with us, is an app that our clients can use, again, daily, weekly, and monthly. Right? So they're actively setting goals and objectives, right? They want to buy a home, improve credit, start saving, pay off debt. And on the backside of this, we can see all of it. Right? So we can see what our clients' goals or objectives are, which means we can help them accomplish them. They're always approved for a home loan at all times, right? Because we connect with their credit provider, we connect with their company for income, we connect with their banking organizations for assets. Which means that at any point, we've removed the friction of them thinking, well, I kind of want to buy a house, but I don't want to go through the whole pre-approval process. It's a nightmare. They stay pre-approved always. right? Which is an awesome place for them to be, which allows them to do, make better decisions from a real estate perspective. They're constantly managing their credit score on a daily basis, right? I mean, it's almost gamifying it to the point where, they can say, well, what happens if I open an account and simulate it, right? What happens if I close or open a credit card? What happens if I pay down a balance? What happens if I change a payment history? They don't have to just cross their fingers every time their credit report is ran and hope that it turns out well, right? They have empowerment to be able to, an agency to go do this. They can set their budget, right? They can manage their budget. They can visualize their budget, and all this works towards the goal setting. They have a home concierge, right, that we offer to them, where it helps them proactively keep their home in great shape, increase the value of the home over time. I mean, this all happens through the app, right? So again, we're adding value daily, weekly, and monthly. We are, on a monthly basis, sending what's called a real estate wealth digest, and this is something that not only does it give them great information about their home, but tells them what they should potentially do with the equity they have in it. Right? And they can watch videos of us talk about it in each section. So this is a really important key component to being proactive in the lives of our clients as opposed to reactive, which helps them, make the decision like, hey, if I'm not in this alone, then it makes me more confident to go buy this house, right? Or to sell this home and buy a new one, or to buy an investment property, because I know I have a team of people behind me that are not going to let me fall. Right? They're not going to let me fail. Right? They're going to proactively help us through this whole thing. So, Brian, that's all I have on those two things. And I'll stop sharing here in a second. But what I would encourage everybody to do is, scan this QR code here, connect with Ryan, because I promise if him and his team can do what we commit to do for your clients, you won't just see a better outcome for yourself. You'll actually be much more inspired by the work that you do. You'll be much more fulfilled with the outcome of that work, because you're not just a transactional agent, but and I'm not going to say relational because everyone does. You are a value-based agent, meaning that your clients and the community that you serve sees you as somebody who will be responsible for their generational growth, right? The wealth that they will create in their family long term will in large part be because of you. Not because they decided to buy a home, that home went up in value. It'll be because you help them navigate the changes and evolutions that are inevitably going to happen in their life. And that takes teamwork, right? It takes a good financing team. It takes a good real estate team. But that's what people deserve. They just don't know what exists, right? And so when you're thinking about how to improve your business, you have to think about how to improve the lives of other people. And this is exactly how you do that. Right, I'll let you finish and add anything you want there.
Yeah, as we're kind of thinking this through, right? When we engage with clients, I want to encourage you to be curious. Think about the questions that you're actually asking the client. I would say one of my superpowers is asking the right question, getting a little deeper with the client. I want to kind of know a little bit about their situation. I want to get curious about, well, why do you want to move? Or why are you not buying a house? Or why do you want to stay in the home that doesn't fit your family's need and you don't want to upgrade? Those are things I'll start there and then let them talk, but I'm doing a lot of active listening. I can't tell you how many times I've run into, check in with a realtor and I'll say, how's things going? They're like, oh man, it's good. I just, I can't find anybody. I'm like, well, did you talk to anybody this week? And they go, yeah, I talked to like 4 people. They're just not ready. I'm like, well, why? Like, well, I don't know. They just said they weren't. Like, whoa, hold on. You didn't go any deeper than that? You just asked if they're ready and they said no? This is what we're talking about. We need to know a little bit more about their situation. These people need advice and direction. They need data. They need to know what we already know, right? They don't know that. So sometimes, like going back to my example of the client who was waiting for 20% down because they heard PMI is bad, they don't want to go to the office and say, I got a loan and I have PMI. Like, bummer. They're going to hang their head low and they feel like they did a bad thing. But they already were carrying a ton of credit card debt, right? That they could have eliminated with the money that they've done a good job saving. But unfortunately, life was also running at a different pace. So they were extended on their credit card stuff. They should have been wiping that out first, right? Would have improved their credit score. They could have got a better rate, maybe offset lower PMI. I mean, there's all sorts of things, but they don't know it because they just didn't know. So again, we want those conversations, and there's no pressure on our side. I always kind of frame that up with the clients. I know when we're talking to somebody, they're like, all right, get me in front of the lender. They're going to pull my credit. After they pull my credit, they're going to ask for 4,000 documents that I don't have ready. It's a pain. I don't want to do it. And look, it kind of is, right? We try to make the process simple. We have a nice app where they can upload everything and keep it real simple. We have tools to connect with a lot of employment vendors and assets to keep that even more tight and easy for the client. But we don't even have to get there if they're not ready. Or if they express to us, hey, I want to buy a house, we run their app. Let's say we get to an app. This is another client recently. They got to an app and there's no way on paper they were going to qualify. And I'm asking, are you the only one that's going to buy that house? And they go, well, no, but my mom and dad are coming in. They're moving in with me. We live together right now. Great. Are mom and dad going to, are they credit worthy? Do they have a job? Well, they just have social security and they have, my dad's got a pension and stuff. Credit's good. Like, okay, can we add them on the loan? Well, I didn't know that because they weren't working. I didn't know they could go on the loan. Like the client just doesn't know. And like to us, sometimes we think, well, that's actually really easy. Why wouldn't you think that they could qualify? They have income. But in their head, they make the assumption like, no, they're not actively in the employment field, right? There's still income coming in. So we think it's really simple. So it's just simple things like that. Like that deal, that person would have called XYZ lender or, the one that goes to the moon or whatever. And they would have said, hey, I want to apply. They run the numbers. They go, no, you don't qualify. Hang up, and they're done. And they're going to be renters for the next decade. And guess what? They're going to move multiple times because their landlord's going to get wind that they're undervalued on their rent. They're going to kick them out, re-rent it, right? They're going to pay more and more and more over time. And we can stop all that by actually listening to them, asking really thoughtful questions, and making sure that we've eliminated all possibility and we've given them an actual plan, and we have a step to follow up with them over time. Because that's the other thing. We all raise our hand in this industry, and it's really with good intention. I've yet to meet one person in this industry that doesn't want to serve their client for life. They all go, I'm a lender for life, or I'm your realtor for life. It's branded on all of our stuff. But what do you actually do? That's the question we have to ask. What is it actually that we provide, scalable, and we can commit to? You can't do it as one person. That's why in our office, when I met with Ryan, he had this grand scheme of how we're going to put all this stuff together. And he's like, well, this is how we got to do it. We're going to have a big, wide team. And I'm like, can't afford a big, wide team. He's like, no, tap into our network. Oh, well, then I could do it. Yeah, perfect. If you got a big, wide team, you can do all those things and you can do them at a high level and you can actually commit to and follow up with what your commitments are. But if you're just one person and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do an annual review with you. I'm going to make sure you're financially ready. I'm going to help, change your generational net worth. No. There's no way you're going to be able to do that and field all the calls and the questions that come in all the time. So use us as a resource. As a lending partner, that's literally what we are. We're an extension of your team, and we're here to really service you on that level and reflect back to you like, hey, it's go time. This client needs your help. They need to sell their home, and they need to find a home that has one more bedroom or that's on this side so they can get their kid into this really good public school because they're paying for private school over here because they live in a bad neighborhood. Let's shift that money over here, right? All sorts of scenarios come out of these great conversations. So anything you want to add to that, Ryan? I feel like that's a little bit of a miss right now. Like sometimes we were a little lazy in 2020, 2021. We were just order takers. Hey, I want to buy a house, rates are good. Hey, I want to buy a house, rates are good. Hey, I want to sell my house, rates are good. And we just said yes. We forgot how to ask questions.
Yeah, I think that not only are the questions important, but we have to understand the psychology of people right now. Like if you have a 2.75% interest rate, you feel like if you give that up, it's somewhat of a failure, right? If you give it up because you need to pay off other high interest debt or consumer debt, if you have to move to a new home and you need the money from your existing home, that somehow you're not doing the right thing financially, right? There's an emotional attachment to giving up the lowest interest rates of all time, and there's some embarrassment and fear and uncertainty, and people need to work through that. Like the same way that people need counselors, they need psychologists, they need therapists to work through things that they're not equipped to work through because we don't learn these things in our life. Finances is not only probably the same, but more so, right? Like people just need real professionals to help them work through situations they're not comfortable with, right? So I really encourage everyone, talk to every single one of your clients, your prospects, every person in your community, and just offer a proactive consultative approach, right? And if you're a real estate professional, you know, you're likely not going to have the financial wherewithal or tools or systems that we have on the financial side to help people get to that place. But that doesn't mean you can't be a part of it. Like, we highly encourage you be a part of every one of those consultations, as long as the client's okay, kind of divulging financial information there. And it's magic to watch someone go from "I'm not sure" to "I can't wait," because that's how you really change someone's life, right? Not, "Hey, I want to buy a house. Can you help me?" Their life would have already been changed with or without you. They would have bought in that home. They would have sold that home. The real magic comes when you help people do something they otherwise wouldn't have done without you. And that's the lane we need to be driving down right now. And Ryan, nobody does it better than you and your team. So super proud to have you helping us with this.
Thanks, man. Super fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're getting close to the top of the hour here. We want to kind of keep it tight. We promised you an hour. We thought this info would be really valuable for you. And look, I absolutely love the consultation part. I love the education. It's where it's it. I'm staying in my lane when I'm doing that. So if I'm talking to somebody, it's not a waste of time. It's, if they don't qualify just yet, that's not a waste of time. I absolutely love it. I think back to my first home purchase. If I wouldn't have made that first home purchase based off of some influences I had that were telling me maybe it's not the right time, there's no way I would own the home that I'm in today. It just wouldn't have worked. But somewhere along the line, it just there was a little bit of influence that was like, no, you could do this, you could do that. And I'm like, oh man, how do I know this stuff? Like, I don't know it. I just ran into a lot of people. And over that journey, we've met a lot of people in the financing world that are really, really smart, way smarter than you and I, Ryan. And we just sponges, right? And we're in front of them, and our clients aren't, but we get a chance to soak up all that info and then push it back out to them so that they have it at their fingertips. So that they have, and they can sometimes see, because of our influence, something that they didn't know existed, an opportunity that they didn't know existed. First time home buyer. This month, we helped two people that are first generation homeowners, meaning their parents and their grandparents have never owned a home. And it was super satisfying. Like, the amount of gratitude on the other end of that phone call is insane. Like, the guy was almost in tears, talking to me because he's bought his first home. And not only is he's got his first home, he is so jacked. He's like, I'm ready to get an investment property. I want to add an ADU. Like, teach me your ways. Like, he wants to know all about it because he's gonna inspire the rest of his family. We talk about, sometimes in this nation, we have this systemic problem with housing. It's because education sucks. We
Yeah.
need to get in front of people. We need to inspire them. We need to show them that, yes, they can. They're just not ready yet. Do these steps. If we can do that, make this place a lot better. Be really fun.
So well said, man. Thank you for having me. To everybody who came today, or anybody who watches this recording afterwards, hopefully this was helpful. Definitely connect with Ryan and his team, and let's go change some lives for the better.
There you go. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you.
Likewise, brother. Talk soon.